and then I'll do an intro. Okay, so we've got live. So welcome to another episode of Screw It, Just Do It with me, Alex, and my very special guest today, Darren O'Reilly, co-founder of WholeSupp. So welcome, Darren. Good to see you today, live from Dublin, I believe.
Yes, thanks for having me, Alex. Delighted to be on the show. I really appreciate you inviting me on.
Absolute pleasure. So, Darren, you're a former professional athlete turned startup founder, trying to solve the challenge of balancing a busy lifestyle with ensuring you meet your nutritional needs. So, from playing professional rugby for the likes of Leinster and Harlequins, you headed for the corporate life. And like many of us, you struggled to balance the demands of your busy lifestyle with the nutritional needs that your body needed. So you decided to come up with a solution, which is WholeSupp, a sports nutrition startup you co-founded with Dr. Brian Carson. WholeSupp offers a nutritionally complete meal and lifestyle supplement that tastes good and is also good for you and the planet. Did I give it justice?
I think you gave it great justice, Alex. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. So maybe I'll give you a little reason why we kind of started the business. It was driven out of personal need. So as you rightly pointed out, I was a professional athlete for a number of years, and unfortunately I had to get a real job, as some people might say. So when I was transitioning into the corporate world, I ended up losing 20 kilos in weight, and trust me, that was not on purpose. It was a combination of a number of things, but the main reasons were skipping breakfast, grabbing meal deals on the go, which were cheap, convenient, but nutritionally disastrous. And I was looking around the office and people were doing the exact same thing as I was. And I would have perceived myself to be very well educated in nutrition and diets and how to look after myself. But the common theme was people were just doing what I was, skipping breakfast or just having a coffee or grabbing a meal deal on the go. So Dr. Brian Carson and myself set out to solve this problem. So we have brought all the best superfoods into one convenient plant-based powdered food, which is cheap and convenient, but very nutritious and delicious, I have to say.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you, wholeheartedly agree with you. Interested to know then, for yourself, career as a professional rugby player, was that a natural path for you upon leaving school, or was it something you had to work hard at?
I worked extremely hard at it, to be honest with you. Lucky enough, I really enjoyed it. Hard work was kind of always kind of driven into us as a family. So I got two older brothers. Being the youngest, you kind of have to fight for survival sometimes with two older brothers who are big lads. But no, when we were younger, we were always ambitious. So, for example, we were selling eggs to our local butcher at the age of 8 or 9, and my brother's a little older. Stephen, my eldest brother, was looking after the ledger. So there's a few complaints where that is at the moment. But we always were hard working. We always had jobs, and then commitment was something that was kind of instilled in us through our parents. And thankfully, kind of that resolved transitioned into my sporting life, and now into the kind of startup world.
And for you, what would you say was that the peak of your career? Was it playing in the English Premiership for Harlequins? Was it playing, I think, at junior level? You went to a World Cup with the age grade team, is that right?
Yeah, I honestly have to say that's probably going to an underage World Cup, definitely, just because it was always a childhood dream of mine being able to play for my country. And then also just at the time you're playing with all your best mates, because you kind of go through many of the different age grade systems, and then you're lucky enough to go represent at a competitive tournament. So it was brilliant. I think that's probably the highlight. And then also won the All-Ireland with my club side Lansdowne as well, which was a very nice way to kind of finish off my rugby career, because it was great fun. And actually Mike Ruddock, as a Welshman, Alex, was the coach at the time. So he was able to instill great team spirit, and he's also an excellent coach as well.
Yeah, led Wales to their first Grand Slam in 2005. I was there myself on that day, and there's I know he spent a lot of time in Ireland because one of his sons plays in the back row for Ireland now.
Yeah. Reese and Kieran as well was in the Leinster setup as well. Two great lads.
And you know, at that level that you played at a professional level, I'm assuming your nutrition was looked after by the club you were with and with the support staff, and you were pretty well educated, as you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, for sure. We're in a very fortunate position. When you go in the morning, all your nutritional needs were there. So from recovery shakes to your breakfast, then after your pitch session, there'll be lunch laid on. And then everybody's kind of diet was slightly tailored. So at the time I was a lot bigger. As I mentioned, some lads needed to slim down, but everything was at hand. Really, the only meal we were kind of looking after would be our evening snack and our dinner in general. But otherwise, we're in a very fortunate position. Everything was put on for us, which was great at the time, but a bit of a culture shock then when I left the environment.
I bet. And you must have been exposed to, many different sports nutrition products over the years, from a GNC to a Grenade. We've had numerous founders on this show as well who've created, Oliver Cookson, Julian Hearn, Al Barrett. I won't mention the brands, but people can work that out, regular listeners. But so did you start formulating your WholeSupp plans, back then, or since you transitioned out of the rugby career to the corporate life, has it come from then instead? Like, how far back did these kind of thoughts go?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So, as I said, I was always entrepreneurial, but in all honesty, I wasn't looking at this space until I was moved into the corporate world for probably about 6 years. And then I kind of started looking around at my own behavioral habits of trying to, so as I said, WholeSupp's plant-based. So I started reducing my meat consumption, and I started thinking, okay, how can I balance my diet up here? And then I started looking at kind of consumer behavior. And as you've probably seen yourself, Alex, a lot of people have moved into being flexitarian. So basically, just for your listeners, flexitarian is somebody who predominantly eats a plant-based or vegetarian diet, but occasionally eats meat or fish. So I felt myself, I was in that bracket. And then I started looking at how can I enhance my own diet. So with the movement of flexitarian, we started to look at, right, how can we formulate a product around this? And then I think, as you mentioned, some of the other founders there, they've paved the way with some education. And I think that the market is now more educated than they were even when I left playing professional sport. I think people are looking for functional foods. So it's not just about how they taste, but although taste is critically important because we don't take things that we don't like the taste of, but I think they're looking for benefits that come out of the product. So when we were formulating our product, we looked at some superfoods, so super greens and super reds. And thankfully, Dr. Carson, my business partner, is the brains behind the operation in regards to the formulation. But we chose organic cherries, for example, for inflammation. So they really help reducing inflammation. And then beetroot for helping blood flow around. And we all know how good broccoli and spinach. I just chose some examples there. But we wanted to pick ingredients that are going to actually have a meaningful impact on your body and not just for putting it on the back of a label.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Like I first looked at this space again when I went from working for a corporate and being in that environment to then working for myself, and then taking out like my first offices in town at a shared workspace. Happened to be by Ted Baker founder Ray Kelvin here in Bournemouth, where I live. And you go into the communal kitchen areas they have there, and it's just jars of biscuits. And before you know it, it's that fatal thing, isn't it? You take one, then you take it out, and then the next break you have another couple. Well, you multiply that over 30 days a month, and multiply that 350. How many days? Hundreds and hundreds of days in a year, and you're like, hang on a minute, I've just put on 2 stone. How the hell did that happen? And that's when I started, looking at this space, and I started taking a shake kind of mid-morning, when that initial craving comes in. And then if I was training, I'll then be taking one kind of mid-afternoon to prevent the second one again. And I don't know, you'll be able to tell me whether that's right or wrong, but now I'm taking one, which is like the mid-morning one, even though, and I've just started, as you'll know, training. I'm week 6 this week for the New York Marathon in November. So I'm still a couple of months away, but I can imagine as I ramp up the miles, my craving for more calories is going to kick in, and I'd rather be doing this than doing the custard creams and the bourbon biscuits.
I hear you, yeah, for sure. And it's interesting. We're lucky enough that we have an amazing ambassador, Kate Jaden, who's just after getting a Guinness World Record for completing 106 back-to-back marathons. So we fueled her across that journey, which is phenomenal. And unfortunately, after the event, she realized that she had a crack in her knee. So she ran through the pain, and that wasn't deliberate on her behalf, but it was just one of the strains that she had. Incredible person, whilst holding down a 40-hour week job. So anytime I'm feeling a little bit low or feeling a little lonely in the startup world, she certainly gives me a bit of a reality check. But as you're saying, Alex, it's a great product for exactly what you said. It's a lifestyle supplement. So as it is nutritionally complete powdered food, it's to support your lifestyle. So stop those cravings when it comes in, or skipping breakfast or skipping lunch. It needs to be there to support your lifestyle, and you use it as you see fit. So we see people like Kate having it in the morning before she goes out to do, when she's in the middle of the marathon training or trying to break the record. Thankfully she did that, or even post that as well. For me, myself, how I use it is first thing in the morning, I'd have a shake, and then normally at lunchtime, or I'd have a snack. So which shake is 2 scoops, and a snack is 1 scoop, and then I just mix it up with water or with a plant-based milk. I think I can be a bit of a bear in the morning, so I sometimes add a little shot of espresso to give it a little kick, so it gives me a bit of a wake up as well.
Nice. Yeah, and funny enough that you mentioned that, because for the first time I took it post exercise last night. I decided to experiment, because it's been so bloody hot, as you know. Decided to go out for a run after the sun had set, instead of doing it in the morning, thinking it would be nicer. But whereas in the morning the sun's already, say, it's been like 23, 24 degrees and warm, the air's different. Whereas I went out last night and it was suffocating, literally,
Very sticky.
the heat. So when I came, I literally didn't get in for my run until about 9:45. So I literally just took 1 shake, like 2 scoops, and then I literally went to bed from it there as well, because I wasn't sure if I could use it as a post exercise as well.
Oh, absolutely. So we have a lot of athletes using it just for recovery, because particularly with amateur athletes, it's really difficult. Everybody's education is around getting protein in directly after their session, because that's what's kind of been banged into us through marketing and through some forms of education. But in all honesty, we need to get good fats in there. We need to get the carbohydrates. And then if we're able to pack in some superfoods and your essential vitamins and minerals, it's a clear winner.
Yeah. And going back to, your transition to the corporate world. So did you make the decision yourself to leave the rugby career, or did you have the decision made for you, like with injury or progress, anything like that?
Yeah, so probably the latter, if I'm being honest. I was getting a lot of injuries, and I was looking at my some of my close mates going on, getting full caps for Ireland, and I was so happy for them. But in all honesty, I was like, I don't want to be left behind the 8 ball here of corporate world, because I seen other peers and other classmates who are going on and making their own professional careers, whether that be in banking or startups or whatever their chosen career paths was. And I was very nervous of being left too far behind, because ultimately, as great a lifestyle it is, being a professional athlete and in rugby, you're not really set up for retirement straight away. So I always had one eye on that. So I kind of chose, instead of jumping to another club, which I didn't really have that much of an appeal to do, was kind of roll up the sleeves and get stuck into the corporate world.
Yeah. And how easy or hard did you find it initially, making that transition?
Being in all honesty, very difficult. Like, it's because when you grow up in an environment with some of your closest friends and you're able to have lifelong memories and relationships with these people, it's totally different. But it was a challenge that I kind of embraced, because I knew that was the case. I knew it was going to be, it's very hard to match an environment like that, even though I feel like some corporates are turning into high performance centers in their own right, and they're creating great cultures. But certainly the environment that I was in and left was amazing. The coaches did an amazing job of instilling great teamwork, high performance, a willingness to socialize with each other on the pitch, off the pitch as well. But I embraced the opportunity to move to London when I kind of finished up playing and got stuck in there. And look, I've no regrets in hindsight.
And it's funny, like the thing that I missed the most, and you mentioned it there, that the camaraderie. I mean, I never reached the heights you did. The furthest I got was playing for the third team at Bath, but you know, I got to play on the rec, and then you know, after game day on Saturday, you know, we'd be playing on the B pitch, they'd be playing on the A pitch, but we'd all go out for a curry together. So I'd be there, you know, my era was like, you know, Jeremy Guscott, people like that I was going out for curries with and beers, and you just think,
Brilliant.
wow, I don't know if that would happen anymore. If you think like in football, you know, could you imagine Manchester United senior players doing that with the juniors? I can't really see it myself.
No, I don't see it, and I definitely think the professional era has changed a lot. We are kind of at the early stages of probably the professional era, but I still think there's great friendships and bonds from sport that can definitely, and habits, I think, that could be transitioned into any career afterwards. So being single-minded, being determined, being self-motivated, knowing how to support other people and get the best out of people. So it is really helpful in a startup, but also creating good cultures and creating good atmospheres for people wanting to thrive and be themselves. Because as much as sport is an individual or can be a team sport, it's also about the individual coming out and showing their best side of themselves and being able to perform at the highest level. I think being able to transition some of those skills into a corporate world or into our startup has been unbelievably useful.
And what's your lifestyle like now, Darren? Are you still pretty physically active? I mean, you're obviously mentally active if you're working on a startup, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I am definitely. I train now most mornings for not necessarily for fitness. Obviously, that's a bonus, but certainly for headspace, I think it's a brilliant way to start the day. I'm getting more into sea swimming as well, which I know you're a big fan of.
Top man.
It's so good. And I think my lifestyle is pretty good now. A lot of focused and kind of goal setting. Particularly breaking them down into smaller bite-sized goals at the moment, because as you know, with startups, you're spinning a lot of plates and trying to ensure that we keep everything moving in the right direction. And look, there's been lots of challenges since we started, but really enjoyable. From negating Brexit, for example, when we're shipping products to Ireland, like learning all about that and how we're best to navigate it, ensure that we can drive down just say postal costs and all that sort of stuff. But we're getting there, certainly big improvements. And I think now that we've shipped close to 25,000 meals, we're definitely moving in the right direction in regards to improving some of those customer journeys.
And what's say one or two of those challenges that you've had that maybe, you know, the audience listening can empathize with as well?
Oh, for sure. So, for example, I just used the shipping one is definitely one. So, trying to find the correct 3LP partner, and then understanding your customs code, then your tariff code, and then trying to get the product across the Irish Sea. That was definitely a massive challenge. And then even reverting back to the product itself, learning what the product language fit is changing. We're always evolving our messaging to make sure that it lands, and data is the best metric on that. So like if we test any sort of language, we see how the consumer is reacting to it. So it's always about, because we're small, we're able to be nimble, we're able to move very quickly and test A/B testings as quickly as possible. And that's what we've been doing so far.
And the product at the moment is UK, but you've got plans to then look at Europe or look at North America, or?
Yeah, for sure. So at the moment we're shipping across the UK and Ireland. So we got through the issues of customs and Brexit, thankfully. The next immediate short-term goal is to open up European shipping, and then the big goal would obviously be North America, because they're, in my opinion, are far more educated marketplace. They seem to adopt these type of products a lot quicker. So definitely that would be kind of the long-term goals to get there. We're also, because our product is only in chocolate and vanilla at the moment, as you know, Alex. But
it's my last vanilla one here. Look at that.
Oh, good.
Got it on point.
Yeah, great product placement. Thanks. But we're looking at creating new flavors, but also we're in the middle of NDP, so new product development, to bring out additional products. So our ultimate mission is to redefine the functional food category. I think there's so many products that can be taken to market, and the consumers are just really interested in this space. Convenient, nutritious food on the go is what people are looking for, because everybody's lifestyle, even during COVID, has gotten more and more congested. People's diaries are getting packed out, and now that we're commuting back to the office, it opens up another world of opportunity as well.
Yeah, and look, I was having a conversation with Adam Rossiter from Bulk, who I'm good friends of, and on WhatsApp, and he was saying, like, last year was the worst year ever, and it was all because of Brexit. It was all because of Brexit, the fallout. And they've got like a factory, I think it's in Poland, where Adam flies to all the time. But you're saying this year has smashed any previous year they had. So I just think it's a great lesson, no matter what size of business you are, that you can have serious challenges, but equally you can bounce back and do incredibly well.
For sure. Delighted to hear that story as well. I love to hear other brands doing so well, because look, I think everybody's looking for options, and they're a great brand as well. So delighted to hear that they bounce back and are smashing it.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about your co-founder then, Dr. Brian Carson. How did you guys meet up?
Yeah, so I've kind of known Brian for a number of years, and he's a senior lecturer in performance nutrition and physiology down in University College Limerick. And when I had this idea in inception, he was one of the first people I turned to, if I'm being honest, because of his education, his background. He's a real thought leader in Ireland, if I'm being honest, in the space. He's also extremely honest and direct, which is really important as well as a co-founder. And when we were going through the new product development for our first two powdered flavors, we just had a blank canvas. So I said, Brian, look, this is what I'd love to create. These are the kind of markers from protein level, vitamin level, minerals, etc. What we're trying to achieve. What do you think is possible? And he set himself a task and went through it really diligently, chose the best ingredients, in his opinion, that actually have meaningful levels of positive bioactives on the body, as well as looking at omega profiles from 3, 6, and 9, healthy fats, choosing novel ingredients. So Red Sea algae as well is in there. And making sure that we had a product before we even started looking at taste, texture, or anything like that is unique. It's not a Me Too product. It's very unique in its formulation, and it's been built from scratch, from the ground up, which we're super proud of. It did take us a very long time to get to market, which thankfully, from speaking to some other founders, we're not alone in that process. Like, it took us pretty much 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Okay. Yeah. From ideation to product launch.
Yeah. And like, we went through a number of editions once we found a manufacturer who was happy to support us, but we also had a lot of hurdles along the way. From, I think this probably, thankfully, we're fairly resilient. We are extremely resilient and extremely driven. But the number of manufacturers we went to for support, and we'd go down a fair bit down the road, and then they just pull the plug, or we weren't big enough, or they didn't have room in their lines to have a small run, or even to do sampling. So it certainly is a test, put it that way. But I'm sure to get calls like this all the time with people having an idea to try it and see how it goes. And the thing with us is we're all in on this. So we bootstrap this business from the ground up, which is amazing. Definitely a lot of gray hairs coming up, but that's I think that's just all part of it. And thankfully, we're in the middle of closing out a fundraising round, which would definitely be able to elevate us to the next level and continue to increase our sales. Thankfully, everything's been organic to date.
Yeah, so bootstrap up to this point, which I think is a great experience to go through as a founder, because you really learn the value of every dollar you spend, rather than launching a business with a huge pot of money that's from a whole bunch of different investors. I'm interviewing a couple of people later, and they started with like a seven-figure sum straight off the bat, and it's easy to burn through that kind of money if you're not counting it as well.
For sure. And I think even when you raise money, the important thing for me anyway, it's not my money, it's not Brian's money, it's WholeSupp's money. So we need to make this really last. We need to be strategic on how we spend it and ensure that it's helping us grow and retain customers, which is the most important thing.
And for you, do you say purposes of this money is that enables you to scale, enables you to grow, so you'll be able to onboard new members of the team, and you can have staff different departments? Is that the main purpose of it, or part of it?
Part of it, yeah. So we have a number of job opportunities out. So looking for a head of marketing and activation managers. And then we're also looking for additional nutritionists as well to continue to build out our new products. So it's a really exciting time in the business. We're also really lucky to be supported by Enterprise Ireland as well. So they're a government agency that really help early stage startups, help in that kind of growth phase as well. So if any of your listeners are looking to apply, more than open for them to reach out if they're in any of those three categories.
Yeah, absolutely. And from your point of view, interesting to ask you, because I've just seen again a product you're probably familiar with, Dan Murray-Serter, who Heights, which is like the brain supplement. So I know Dan, and I didn't realize till I saw a post of his last week. He's a former guest of the show. That all of his team, and he set out deliberately to scale a team that was virtual, and it just so happens that there are a bunch of them in London, so they managed to go out and do an activity together. But equally, many members of the team are scattered to the four winds, so to speak. So how about yourself, when you kind of doing this for the first time round? Are you looking to recruit people who are in Dublin, who are in London, or anywhere in the world?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I'm also an avid user of Heights, big fan of what Dan and his team are doing. Yeah, really like what they're doing. Great brand. So we're going to be very strategic. We'll be picking the best talent for the best location. It'd be great, ideally, to have some locally here in Ireland. But if the best talent isn't there, we'll have to look abroad. The beauty, and probably one of the only positives probably out of COVID, is people are very used to working remotely. Everybody's able to jump on like ourselves, have an audio call, get to know one another, and when needed, we can all fly into one location if needs be. But I think Dan's a great example of looking at strategically what's best for the business. So when we're looking at talent, we need to bring in people who are going to be the smartest in the room in their particular skill set, and that's what we're aiming to do. So we're really looking to try scale talent as much as possible, but whilst remaining as lean as possible. So it's a bit of it's a double-edged sword, but I've been speaking to many founders. It's definitely really important to kind of focus on what are the immediate needs and not the future needs. So look at the here and now and what's going to be most important for our business.
Yeah, it's a really good answer. And listeners are going to be familiar, as I mentioned before, with companies, like Grenade and Huel, because I've interviewed the founders. Bulk, I mentioned. Dan with Heights. Johnny Kennedy, another ex-rugby player from Newbury, you might be familiar as well, chatting to them this week. For you and your co-founder then, where was the opportunity initially, when it comes to the functional food? We mentioned the sports angle, we mentioned that busy lifestyle angle as well. where was that opportunity? Where was that kind of screw it, just do it moment to start with, Darren?
Yeah, as I said, once I had the personal need and I was looking around, I realized this. But let's be completely honest here. There is this, like, there's a massive issue. Like, there's a global pandemic, and the silent pandemic is probably obesity. When we look around, there is definitely a worldwide issue there, and that stemmed from education, but also the reality is it's cheaper to eat less healthily than it is to eat healthily. So this is the truth. So when we set out, we're like, okay, right, how can we address this problem? So what we've done is we've brought out a product that, first of all, is a powder product, which is plant-based for all the positive reasons on the environment. It's high in protein, but it's also accessibly priced. So as you know, you can get a meal for 179 or a snack for 89p. So really accessibly priced things that are convenient, that take less than 30 seconds to make. So once we had the aha moment of going, okay, screw it, let's do it. This is definitely a marketplace that people are looking for options. They're looking for functional foods. Now that I think now that consumers are far more educated, they definitely are open to trying additional products. And the feedback that we've gotten is predominantly around the taste, how good it tastes, but then also how it's feeling. Like, we're having numerous people saying how good their gut feels because of the product, because of the ingredients that they have. They're feeling more focused and energized for the day ahead because it's a really low GI, so like not a big sugar push, so we don't have any added sugar, so it's nice and consistent. And as you know, Alex, there you're drinking the vanilla, and it's slightly pink color. That's the power of the beetroot and the cherries.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So people are always kind of go, yeah. So we don't put any
I just made the connection there.
The penny drop. So we don't put any artificial colorings or sweeteners in there. So it's all a very natural product that's able to make, more importantly, making people feel great. It's not about, it is important about all the ingredients, but more so how our consumers are feeling. They love the taste, but their gut is feeling great. They're feeling energized. They're feeling focused. And then any of the athletes that we're fueling at the moment are saying it's great for recovery as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, again, without going into too much graphic detail for our listeners, and I won't mention the name of the product because I mentioned a few of the brands that we use, but one of them in this space, again, when I first started using it, and I was in the workspace at the time, and I thought, is this just me? And I saw other people bringing the same product into the kitchen, and just like, does anybody else guts don't really agree with this? And they were all the same, and it's like, wow, so what's that all about? You know, and how long do I have to take this for until my body actually adjusts to having it? So I haven't had that with this from the first drink onwards, from the first shake. It's been seamless, and I'm not just saying that because we're on air at the moment.
No, I appreciate that, and we've had a lot of consumers who are on the FODMAP diet. And part of when we were formulating the product, we wanted to be allergen free, so no gluten, no dairy, no soy, etc., but also low FODMAP. So people who do have kind of intolerances or more sensitive digestive system, we've been getting really positive feedback. Exactly what you were saying there is, oh wow, the last time I tried a product like this, it really didn't agree with me.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I think we have nailed that part of the product, and consumers are reacting well and actually enjoying it as well, which is great.
Yeah, I thought I'd bring that up. It's interesting, really interesting.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, being plant-based and sustainable. I'm interested to know this, and it's good to chat to you about this. Do you think that in 2022, do you simply have to offer that the market demands that your product has to be that?
In my opinion, yes. So when we were looking at packaging our product, so for example, when you mentioned sustainability, when we were looking at packaging our product, we've chosen a home compostable pouch, as you know, Alex. It was 2/3 more expensive than a plastic one. So the easy option for us, and it was almost double the MOQ. So, like, we took the stance that this is this is a mission. This is going to be part of our mission, that we're going to be as sustainable as possible, from the ingredients that we choose to the packaging we choose. So your pouch can be composted at home in as little as 90 days. But even our delivery boxes, we've looked at, they could be curbside recyclable. There's no toxic ink, so it's all vegetable ink. So really a big focus on that. But then, as I said, when we're looking at ingredients, how we source our ingredients need to be sustainably sourced as well, and responsibly sourced as well. So that was a big part of it. And part of our short-term mission as well, by the end of this year, we're on a mission to get our B Corp pending status. Because we're less than 12 months trading, that's what we're aiming to get. So that's going to really help our guardrails to keep growing in a sustainable manner, because they help with how you recruit people, how you select products, all that. So balancing profit and good. So it's really important for us. And I think it's a bit of a statement, being a startup, being able to do that as well.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is we did, when I was doing pre-pandemic live events, I remember doing one up in Manchester. And there was it was like Piers Linney, former Dragon's Den investor. It was like Jamie Lang, from Candy Kittens and Ed. There was Jamal Easel from a company called Change Please. And I remember the prize was to win a mentoring session with Piers and the guys. And I remember the person who won it had these sauces. And when they brought the sauces up afterwards for them to look at, and he had a load of E numbers in it. And it's just like, you can't do that these days. You just can't launch a product with that in it. Because the first thing he said, he was like, I've got kids. First thing I look at was at the back, was at E numbers. And he was just like, whatever you do, you just need to get rid of those. And just whatever size product run you've done, you need to bin it. And it's like harsh advice, as you'd expect from someone who's, been a judge on Dragon's Den, but equally it's sound advice.
Very sound advice, and a strong panel there that you're presenting with. But no, honestly, when we were doing market research, we tested the market's appetite for it, and like, the numbers don't lie. Like, when we did blind testing, they were just like nearly, I'd say I don't know the exact, I think it was 96 and 97% of people were like, it needs to be compostable. If you're offering that option, go with it. So, and I personally think the touch and feel of the bag feels more premium. It feels nicer, and it's a really, I think it's a unique positioning as well, because I think, unfortunately, a lot of the nutrition space is created in plastic.
100%, and I think, just to reiterate from my point of view, from initially receiving the box, and the feedback from my wife, my kids, they love the branding, love the colors that you chose. So again, I don't know how much market research you go into that, but it looks, feels, tastes, smells like a premium product. Whereas if you walk into like my local co-op, for example, you go in there and there's just a load of bars wrapped in plastic, like you said. Yeah. And unfortunately, the connotation that you get from that nowadays is a turn off for, especially, I think, the younger customers that you would obviously be wanting to buy a product for the rest of their life, the millennials, the Gen Zs, etc.
For sure, it's so true. And look, when we were designing our product, we were really lucky that we had a great designer who I worked with previously in another kind of in my corporate life. Really, really good guy. But when you look at the kind of green, the crazy dots, that's actually the Fujatsuki sequence, so the sequence of life. So if you ever look at, if you're kind of into geeking out on maths, there's a big sequence of it. But if you look at a sunflower, they never touch off each other, so it just keeps going. So it's a really cool thing. You can kind of, it's pretty mad looking dots, but they're fun.
Very good. And interested to know then, again, just to finish up, Darren, a couple of things. So obviously you can look at this from a couple of different angles when you're trying to get your first customers as well, when you're trying to get it into the mind's eye of your audience. Are there still opportunities for you to get a product like this in with a premier sports team? Have they not all got deals already sewn up that you could get somebody who's maybe just below or that kind of up and coming level? Because obviously the exposure that you get. And the reason I'm saying this is just because somebody I've interviewed on the show, Josh White from Can of Water, and he recently posted something, and it was Ed Sheeran was recording, and there was one of his Can of Waters there. And then today he's just posted on LinkedIn. I've forgotten the YouTuber's name, but it's the dude who's a singer as well, and he's got like 148 million subscribers, and it literally just had his product there, doing a skit with it on TikTok. And I was like, that's just gold dust that you can't plan for. But if you could plan and you could get this in the hands of, I don't know, like the Ireland rugby team or the Leinster rugby team, are there opportunities out there, you think, from a market?
For sure.
Okay.
There is. And I think with the science, because we're a science-led business, so we went with that approach. We didn't white label the product, so a lot of teams are interested in speaking about it. So it certainly is. And definitely when you're talking about product placement and ambassadors, we're lucky that we have a lot of the kind of rugby lads very interested in supporting, but then a couple of footballers and musicians as well. So there's a nice pipeline of people there that are open and willing to help, which is I'm internally grateful for, which is great. And you definitely notice the authenticity of people when they actually do things for being real and not being paid for and all that sort of stuff. You see a real genuine approach to it, and I think that resonates with consumers as well.
Yeah, no, 100% comes across. And look, just to finish up, take a big portion of your time, but last question would be ultimate goal. Where would you want to be that 5, 10, 25 years, wherever that is, Darren? Where would you like to see WholeSupp?
Oh, we'd love to be the largest functional food company in the world. So we're obviously very small at the moment, but when I have large ambitions, short term, we're going to open up European shipping with a big focus on the UK market, because there's 65 million people there. Continue to develop new products, but there's no end of drive and ambition from our small and nimble team. But I think with the additional hires and the consultants we have in the business, we're certainly going in the right direction.
Amazing. Well, look, thank you very much for your time. Thanks again for the WholeSupp that is fueling my own lifestyle and my marathon ambitions later this year as well. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I know our audience loves hearing and seeing the different perspectives of where a business is in its growth. And I know people can really resonate with chatting to founders like yourself who are at a relatively early stage and experiencing a lot of the challenges that they're experiencing as well. But I wish you all the best. I hope listeners to this show would try your product as well. You can click on the links when you are listening to this and see the discount code that you get 15% off as well. It's all there. So as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, you can easily just scroll down and click the link there as well to go and have a read about the story, find out a little bit more about WholeSupp and give it a try. And last, Darren, any way, what's the easiest way people, if they want to connect with you personally or they want to reach out to the brand, they might want to work for you, for example, they might want to try the product. What are the easiest ways?
For sure. Directly, my email address is darren@wholesupp.com. And then you can find us on all social channels at WholeSupp, or click on our website, which is wholesupp.com. Thanks so much for having us on, Alex. Honestly, really appreciate it. It's been great catching up.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed, Darren.
Cheers.